Hello, children. It's me again, your humble host, Mrs. Hawkins. I am coming to you to explain the difference between a Protestant and a Jesuit Catholic missionary, which you're going to hear described in a little bit more detail and referenced in the videos coming up soon. Before we get there, though, I just want to clarify what a missionary is. A missionary is a person called to a religious mission, quote unquote. Usually, the goal is to convert a group of people that are unfamiliar with the religion of the missionary. So, if I am Christian, I want to make sure that the people I meet also become Christian because I think it's really important. I'm on a mission. So, that is the goal of a missionary. So let's talk about the difference between a Protestant missionary and a Jesuit Catholic missionary. Oftentimes, Jesuits are just called Jesuits. The Catholic is left out. Without giving you too much detail about the historic differences between the two, um, back way a long time ago in the 1500s, the church split and it became Roman Catholic or Protestant, literally protesting against, well, more complicated things. But anyway, you get the general idea. Protestants are not Catholics, but they're still Christians. So they're both Christian missionaries, just slightly different approaches to the Christian faith. So I'm going to try not to complicate that any further. You can also see there's a slight difference in how they dress. Obviously, the picture on the right of the Jesuit, Jesuits are also known as brothers or monks, if you want to call them that. Protestants tend to dress like normal lay people, like regular people. All right, so the big difference, if we look on the list on the Protestant missionary, sometimes independent of a church, so you didn't necessarily have to belong to a specific denomination. You just applied the basic ideas of evangelistic Christianity to the natives. Often they created settlements within their homesteads or farms and then went to nearby natives and tried to convert them from there. And often the wife and husband were in teams or larger family groups that worked together to work with the natives. So it was kind of like a whole group approach. The Jesuits were had been doing this for a lot longer. They were actually really active with the Spanish over in Central and South America, and they had been working on the East Coast as well. So they had quite a bit of experience. Often they would be sent by officials within the Catholic Church, or sometimes they would, in singles, uh, attach themselves to fur trading groups, as French Canadians were often also Catholic. So they would follow and travel along with French traders and work with natives that they came along within the regular fur trade. But they obviously represented the Catholic Church's teachings, um, and they were also single in the Catholic Church. Priests and monks take a vow of chastity, they don't marry, and so they would be by themselves, which allowed them to often live with the natives in their actual camps or areas, and so they were able to embed themselves a little bit more in a familiar way. And often that ended up being slightly more successful as far as who was able to convert the most Native Americans. In both cases, some were kinder than others. There's some evidence that some were really brutal, not very nice on both sides, Protestant and Catholic. And often the missionaries thought they were doing what was best. They didn't necessarily mean to hurt people, but they felt very strongly that they were doing what was right, even though maybe we know now it wasn't as right as it could have been. Obviously, their version of what was civilized was the most important thing, and natives had a very hard time sometimes understanding why there only had to be one way. Like, um, theirs was not usually a polytheistic or monotheistic approach to religion, not just one God. They believed in a lot of different spirits. So they didn't understand why they couldn't just incorporate this new God without giving up their old beliefs. So that was complicated. Some of the early missions that were in the Oregon Territory included the Wailapatu mission, totally mispronounced that, where the Whitmans were, the Dallas mission, where the Lees were, the Spaldings were on the Lapway mission, tending to the Nez Perce. The Blanchette missionary was actually a Catholic missionary, and the mission bottom with the Lees, Fort Nisqually with the Demers. So, kind of those are the big major ones early on, but as the Oregon Trail became more popular and more immigrants came out, obviously missionaries also